Well, the midterm elections of 2014 have come and gone.
Finally,
True.
we will be
But
free of
now
all
the
those
campaign
political
of
commercials.
2016 has already begun.
True. So I guess it's now time to take a direct look at what occurred, and not from an emotional standpoint. Did those Americans who aligned themselves with the right side of what is now actually America's one-party system really win anything other than just seats? The joyous celebrations of the victory by the right side of the party are now over, and all the celebratory head-splitting hangovers have dissipated in all those who celebrated that victory too extensively. So it's time to come back to what once again faces people in the real world.
Well, emotions most definitely are a powerful driving force in all people. What one now sees all over the patriot sites on the web, whether they are patriot groups on social media or from actual freestanding websites that cater to the American patriots, is how do we increase our lead in 2016, as well as similar articles pertaining to what the American patriots need to do in order to concentrate on winning even more congressional seats in 2016, as well as retaking the White House.
But could seats be the only thing that those who align themselves with the right side of the owner's party have actually won? Although it has been proven that the attention span of most Americans is only between 3 to 6 months, it just might behoove those on the right side of the party to go and look up the results of the last sweeping victory by the right side, which took place in 2010. The right side went from minority to complete majority in the House of Representatives back in 2010, and every single seat that was taken by the right was acquired solely upon an actual sworn promise by each and every one of those campaigning that year that they would defund and repeal the most devastating law ever to have been forced upon this nation. A law that should have been labeled totally illegal from the get-go, because it did not actually originate in the House as required by the Constitution, but rather in reality originated in the Senate.
But the repeal of Obamacare was the singular issue that catapulted the right side of the party into control in 2010. That is very true, and most people are totally unaware of it. If people were to actually look into just how it came into being, they would see that it was actually created by none other than good old Harry Reid himself, who took a military homeowners tax break bill that had already passed the House, and keeping only the number that was assigned to the bill by the House of Representatives, he stripped it completely and inserted into that bill what is known today as Obamacare. That practice is a little-known tactic called a shell bill, used primarily by the leftists to force things upon the American people that the people would naturally object to. But the repeal of Obamacare was the singular issue that catapulted the right side of the party into control in 2010.
And people should also remember something else from that year. Did all of those congressmen that were elected in that year, and solely because of its sworn promise, actually keep their promise to the American people that cast the votes to give them that victory and control? In a single word: no. Now in the 2014 intramural midterm games, there were two primary issues that were in the forefront of the people's minds. Naturally, the repealing of Obamacare again, where more empty promises could be rendered to garner more seats in the House, as well as illegal immigration, which was now by far the primary issue. But because Americans get accustomed to political defeat very easily now, Obamacare fell to a rather distant second place, but still up there on the priorities list.
And people should also remember that Reid had been deliberately preventing literally hundreds of bills originated in and passed by the House from being brought up and voted on by the Senate. Together with his buddy Obama, they were determined to single-handedly stifle the Senate from doing their job. For 6 years they had a totally free hand to do whatever they wanted to do, and the entire American media was there to continually cover for them. Both Congress and the American people were either going to capitulate to their will or nothing at all would get done. Reid would not even allow any budget proposals to be introduced to the Senate, because like his buddy Obama, he wanted to do anything and everything necessary to financially break this country. As such, for 6 years this nation has functioned without a budget, and only raised America's debt ceiling higher and higher each and every year to cover this nation's extremely wasteful spending, thus pushing this nation toward insolvency. Reid and Obama want that entire farce labeled Obamacare to remain intact.
They also wanted to completely change the entire demographics of America by legalizing millions upon millions of those who thumbed their noses at this nation and its immigration laws, and just came on in. Now by doing so, thanks to Obama and Reid, those millions upon millions of invaders of America have drastically raised all categories of the crime rate in America, as well as brought with them and deliberately spread diseases that were previously all but completely eradicated in this nation. thus seriously endangering the lives of all legal American citizens, and especially the American children.
And that is something that just cannot be denied. But Obama and Reid were bound and determined to legalize the invaders of America. And Reid would do his part by stopping the function of government until it capitulated. And Obama would do his part by deliberately and openly bypassing Congress and pretending he was a king sitting on a throne rather than an employee of the people sitting behind a desk. He would rule via executive order. The people finally had showed that they have had enough of all of this, and the midterm intramural party games were thought by the people to actually be a referendum on Obama and Reid's actions. And the people cast their votes accordingly. However, there is a problem with that. The people were casting their votes against Obama and Reid, but were casting their votes only for the right-hand side of the same party of the actual owners of America. And as such, nothing is really going to change. Sure, come January, bills will begin to be brought up and voted on again by the Senate, and there will quite probably be a literal flood of those bills being brought up and voted on. Too many for the people to even keep track of. McConnell, an ultra-weak Senate minority leader, will now become an ultra-weak majority leader. And Bonner, the ultra-weak majority leader in the House, will still remain the ultra-weak majority leader.
And unfortunately those two will be the majority leaders. And because of that, America is still going to see the amnesty the people were so vehemently against become a reality. And Obamacare, well, that will remain primarily intact, with only a few minor dings placed into it to put on the show that the Congress is now acting on behalf of the people. And the people will fall for it. They always do, and there is nothing to even suggest that they won't always continue to fall for the games played by the puppets of America's owners. And even before the midterm intramural games, the entire media was hyping to the hilt that Obama was going to grant amnesty to the illegal invaders via executive order if his side of the party lost control of the Senate. And immediately after the midterm games were over, the entire media began to push that thought even more. What they conveniently forget to mention is that Obama cannot legally grant amnesty on his own via executive order. He does not have that authority.
True. He most definitely has shown himself to be truly delusional, but not that delusional. If you were to actually try something that blatantly stupid, then aside from Congress saying disregard that foolishness, they would actually have grounds to physically remove him from that office and place him under mandatory psychiatric confinement and treatment, claiming an extremely provable mental breakdown. But something like that could only occur if America actually had a government that was representative of the people and not the corporate owners of America. But amnesty most definitely will be granted, but it will be granted, not by Obama, but rather by Congress itself. First, because Congress does not actually represent the people of this nation, it works for its corporate owners, and America's actual owners definitely want the demographics of this nation changed. And second, because the American people are very easily manipulated, the right side of the party of America's owners was put into place primarily to attribute that amnesty to the right side of the party, and they will completely own that amnesty. It was done that way to pave the way for the left side to take over again in 2016, as well as retain the executive branch. Americans will be extremely angry that once again what it thinks is its own government caved to the illegals, and especially the right side of the party, so the referendum of 2016 will be against the Republican side of the party in retribution.
Quite probably the saddest thing about this most recent midterm intramural party games is that by far, most of the people who aligned themselves with the right side of their owner's party actually think their side now controls 50 Senate seats as opposed to the left side that is now down to 45 seats. But the people seriously need to disregard those numbers, because as a whole the right side of the party has never had a spine to begin with. So that in itself would nullify any victory by those who aligned themselves with that side of the party. Instead, they should pay attention to who is not actually a true part of the right side of the party. Not that it really makes that much of a difference, but let's look at the physical count of seats anyway. The left side of the party is a solid voting bloc in the Senate, and they automatically start out with 45 seats. Now subtract the rhinos from the right side of the party. First, Lindsey Graham, who already has met with Obama to pledge his support for the illegal invaders. Now also deduct John McCain, Susan Collins, John Hoeven, Jeff Flake, Lamar Alexander, and most definitely Marco Rubio, who is a staunch ally of the illegals and along with McCain was a member of the pro-illegal anti-America Gang of Eight. What you now see is a complete reversal of the numbers where illegals and amnesty is concerned, and it now is 52 definitely pro-illegals and maybe even more if the price is right, and 45 or even less that will safely say they are against the surrender of this nation to the invaders.
When it is over, and amnesty has been granted, it will quite probably be McConnell who will appear before the cameras saying it was the only logical thing to do because there are just too many of them here now. He will completely dodge the foaming at the mouth anger of the people who will in unison be screaming, "Why did you not just do the logical thing, and stop the $500 billion you give them each and every year as rewards, and they would all go home?" The media is already geared toward hyping that the right side of the party is actually at fault for the surrender of this nation and the passing of amnesty, which the voters most definitely will remember come 2016, but only because the media will make sure they remember it. So Obama is not going to grant amnesty via executive order because he cannot do it. Congress is now going to grant amnesty, and Obama is merely going to immediately sign it into law.
Isn't politics fun? The open manipulation of the masses for fun and profit, both financial and political. Well, it's fun if you are the owners of the government and the ones doing the manipulating. And what of the sheeple that were used again? They'll whine and complain as always, but again, as always, they will comply and get over it. The entire owned and controlled media will hype it to the hilt, laying credit for it upon the right side of the herd. The media talking heads on the right side will as always convince their viewers and listeners that this is the best solution overall, and that is what the people elect their representatives to do for the nation. The time to stop all of this was decades ago, when the people first began to hear, press 1 for English, and to see all labels being printed bilingual, as well as to watch this country give away what has now become far more than $500 billion per year as rewards to the invaders of this nation. That is when they should have taken notice and stopped it. But as always they didn't really care, so was it only seats and desks that were actually won by those aligning themselves with the right side of the party, and everything else will essentially remain the same? We most definitely will see soon enough.